How a alien girl experiment of reproduction with a human and turned into pleasure. The research station drifted quietly between two stars, far from any world that could interfere with its work. Inside, everything was clean, white, and calm. Lights glowed softly along curved walls, and the air was carefully balanced to suit many species. This place was built for thinking, not feeling. Scifi moved through the corridor with smooth, measured steps. She was tall and slender, her skin faintly luminous, her eyes dark and reflective. She had been trained since early development to control emotion. Her species believed feelings clouded judgment, and judgment was everything. Today was important. She was about to begin a reproduction compatibility experiment with a human. To Scifi, reproduction was data. It was chemistry, timing, and biological response. Pleasure was unnecessary. Her people had removed it from their process long ago. It wasted energy and caused distraction. Or so they believed. Humans were different. They had been observed for decades. They were emotional, chaotic, and inefficient, yet they survived disasters, adapted quickly, and bonded strongly with each other. That contradiction fascinated Scifi. The council approved a limited study, strictly controlled and fully consensual. The human participant waited inside the preparation chamber. His name was Elias Carter. He sat calmly on a padded surface, wearing simple station clothing. He was not restrained. Humans reacted badly to restraint, the data said. Elias showed no fear, only curiosity. His heart rate was steady. His breathing was slow. Scifi paused at the doorway and observed him for several seconds. Humans were physically unimpressive compared to many species. No claws, no armor, soft skin, yet something about the way he met her gaze made her hesitate. He looked at her as if she were a person, not a process. "Hello," Elias said gently. Scifi blinked once. Greetings were unnecessary, but she replied anyway. "Hello, Elias Carter, are you prepared to proceed?" "Yes," he said, "as long as we follow what we agreed." "Consent may be withdrawn at any time," she replied automatically. "I know," he said with a small smile. That expression caused a strange sensation in her chest. She recorded it as an anomaly and stepped forward. The chamber adjusted to both their needs: soft light, stable temperature, sensors activated silently. Everything was monitored, everything was safe. At least it was meant to be. The initial phase involved neural and chemical alignment. Scifi activated the interface bands on her wrists and temples. Elias wore a simpler version, designed to translate human responses into readable data. At first, everything matched predictions. Chemical markers aligned, neural signals synchronized. Biological compatibility was confirmed. Scifi narrated observations in a calm, professional tone, recording everything. Then something changed. As the synchronization deepened, Scifi felt a warmth spread through her body. Not heat from the environment, something internal. Her muscles relaxed without instruction. Her breathing pattern shifted. She paused. This was not in the models. Elias noticed immediately. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I am functioning," she said, though her voice sounded different to her own auditory receptors. Softer, less precise. The warmth intensified. Along with it came something else. Awareness, not of the room or the data, but of Elias himself. His presence felt close, not just physically, but mentally, like a shared space opening between them. Scifi had studied pleasure as a concept. She understood the definitions, but experiencing it was entirely different. Her thoughts slowed. The strict lines of focus blurred. Instead of numbers, she noticed small things: the sound of Elias breathing, the way his expression shifted when he sensed her confusion, the steady calm he offered without trying to control the situation. "Something's happening, isn't it?" Elias said quietly. "Yes," she admitted. Admitting uncertainty felt wrong, and yet relieving. The sensors reacted wildly. Data streams spiked and twisted into patterns she had never seen. Pleasure indicators, emotional resonance, neural feedback loops, all far beyond expected values. "This should not be occurring," Scifi said. Elias did not laugh or panic. "Humans don't really separate these things," he said. "Our minds and bodies talk to each other all the time." She tried to pull back, to reassert control. The system resisted. Not mechanically, but biologically. Her body responded to the shared signals as if they mattered, and they did. The sensation was not overwhelming. It was gentle, deep, like a current carrying her forward instead of pushing her down. Pleasure was not sharp or explosive. It was warm, steady, and strangely comforting. Scifi realized she was not afraid. That realization startled her more than anything else. Fear was a useful emotion. Her people allowed it in limited amounts. But this was different. This felt safe. She terminated the experiment. The systems powered down smoothly. The shared signals faded, leaving a quiet echo behind. Scifi stepped back, steadying herself. Her internal monitors showed elevated emotional activity, still slowly decreasing. Elias sat up slightly. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," she said quickly, too quickly. "You acted within all agreed parameters." "Then why stop?" She searched for an answer and found none that fit protocol. "Because the data is unexpected." He nodded, accepting that. Humans were surprisingly good at that, accepting uncertainty. Medical drones scanned them briefly and withdrew. The chamber returned to neutral. The experiment officially was incomplete. Scifi escorted Elias to the exit. Regulations required distance now, but she found herself walking slower than usual. "Thank you for being honest with me," Elias said before leaving, "about what you felt." She had not planned to be honest. It had simply happened. After he left, Scifi returned to her private research space. She reviewed the data again and again. Every time the same result appeared. Human emotional involvement amplified biological success markers by a massive margin. Pleasure was not a side effect. It was a catalyst. Her people had removed it to gain control. Humans had embraced it and turned it into strength. Scifi opened a private log file, one not linked to the Council's automatic review systems. Such secrecy was forbidden. Her hand hesitated, then moved anyway. "Observation," she recorded softly. "Human participation introduces emotional variables that increase synchronization, stability, and mutual awareness. Pleasure appears to reinforce cooperation rather than disrupt it." She paused, then added another line, one that was not scientific at all. "I experienced something meaningful." Scifi closed the file and stared at the distant stars outside her viewport. For the first time in her life, her thoughts were not perfectly ordered. And for the first time, she did not want them to be. Somewhere else on the station, Elias looked out at the same stars, wondering what would happen next. Neither of them knew that this incomplete experiment had already changed everything. The council chamber was silent when Scifi finished presenting her report. The space was vast and curved, filled with floating symbols and soft light, but no sound followed her final words. The elders of her species watched her through translucent screens, their expressions unreadable. "You terminated the experiment early," one of them finally said. "Yes," Scifi replied. Her voice was steady, but her hands rested tightly at her sides. "Because continuing would have produced invalid data under our current models." "That is an excuse," another elder said. "The purpose was control." Scifi lifted her gaze. "And that purpose may be flawed." A quiet ripple moved through the chamber. Questioning core belief systems was not forbidden, but it was rare. Her species valued stability above all else. "You experienced pleasure," the lead elder said. It was not a question. "Yes, pleasure is distraction." Scifi took a slow breath. "It is also structure. Reinforcement, cooperation. Humans do not view it as weakness. They use it to strengthen bonds, trust, and long-term success." Silence returned, heavier this time. "The data supports her claim," an analysis drone added neutrally. Human emotional feedback increased biological efficiency by 74%. That number caused more reaction than her words ever could. The council did not approve further experiments. They did not deny them either. Instead, they ordered observation. Scifi was dismissed but not punished. That unsettled her more than any reprimand. Days passed. Elias remained on the station, officially listed as pending reassignment. Unofficially, no one seemed to know what to do with him. Humans were rarely left idle, but Elias adapted easily. He exercised, read, and spent long hours looking out at the stars. Scifi found herself thinking about him often. She tried to focus on her work, but her thoughts drifted. Sensations she had never known before now lingered like echoes. Calm warmth, quiet joy, a sense of being understood without explanation. Eventually, she broke protocol. She requested a meeting. When Elias saw her approach, he stood. "I wasn't sure I'd see you again," he said. "Neither was I," she answered honestly. They sat in a shared observation space, separated by nothing but choice. No sensors, no data streams, just open air and distant stars. "I've been thinking," Elias said, "about what happened." "So have I," Scifi replied. He looked at her carefully. "You didn't do anything wrong." I know, she said. That is what troubles me. He smiled slightly. Humans say that a lot. They spoke for a long time, not about reproduction or experiments, but about life. Elias told her about Earth, about music, stories, and how humans used emotion to understand the universe when logic was not enough. Scifi listened, truly listened. She realized something then. Her species had mastered survival, but humans practiced living. The next council review came sooner than expected. This time, Scifi was not alone. Elias had been invited. That alone was unprecedented. The council observed him carefully as he spoke. Elias did not try to impress them. He did not argue or challenge. He simply explained. Humans feel deeply because it helps us survive together, he said. Pleasure tells us what to protect. Pain tells us what to avoid. Emotion teaches us meaning. You allow emotion to guide reproduction, an elder said. That invites instability. Or resilience, Elias replied calmly. We don't just reproduce, we bond. That bond helps us endure loss, distance, and fear. The data supported him. The simulations confirmed it. Human populations showed higher long-term stability when emotional factors were present. Scifi watched the council struggle. She understood now how difficult this was, to accept that something removed for control had actually been essential. The council did not announce a decision that day. Instead, they asked for collaboration. Human advisors were invited. Not as subjects, but as equals. The station changed. Spaces once designed only for efficiency were softened. Colors, sounds, and shared areas appeared, not because humans demanded it, but because others began to feel its value. Scifi noticed changes in herself as well. She laughed once. The sound surprised her, but she did not suppress it. She learned that pleasure did not weaken focus, it sharpened it. Elias remained close but not possessive. He never pushed. That trust mattered more than anything else. Months later, the council released their findings. Emotion was no longer classified as a biological flaw. It was redefined as an adaptive force. The announcement spread quickly through interstellar networks. Humanity's reputation shifted almost overnight. No longer just survivors or inventors, they were recognized as teachers of something long forgotten. Connection. Scifi stood beside Elias at a viewport, watching a human ship arrive to join the station permanently. My people believed we had evolved beyond pleasure, she said quietly. Elias shook his head. You didn't evolve beyond it, you evolved away from it. She considered that, then nodded. Humans evolved through it. They stood in comfortable silence. The experiment that had begun as a clinical procedure had changed two species, not through force or conquest, but through understanding. Scifi recorded her final official log that day. Conclusion, she said. Humanity's strength is not physical dominance or efficiency. It is their ability to turn emotion into unity, pleasure into purpose, and connection into survival. She closed the log and looked at Elias. For the first time, her future felt open, not controlled, not empty, but full. The changes did not stop at the station. News traveled faster than ships ever could. Across distant systems, other species began to study the council's announcement. Many dismissed it at first. Emotion was old, messy, and dangerous. Most advanced civilizations believed they had grown past it. Humans did not argue. They demonstrated. Human diplomats arrived not with demands but with stories. They spoke of families separated by space yet bonded by memory. Of explorers who crossed darkness because someone believed in them. Of joy used as fuel, not distraction. Some species listened. Others laughed. Scifi watched it all from the station, standing beside Elias as transmissions played out across the stars. They think emotion makes humans weak, she said. Elias smiled calmly. They always do, at first. A joint research group was formed soon after. Not a single project, but many. Humans worked alongside other species to redesign social systems, education models, and even artificial intelligence interfaces that included emotional awareness. The results were impossible to ignore. Productivity increased. Mental strain decreased. Cooperation lasted longer. Pleasure, it turned out, was not excess. It was balance. Scifi led one of the most important studies, not on reproduction, but on trust. She measured how shared emotional understanding reduced conflict before it began. No weapons, no force, just connection. For someone once trained to suppress feeling, she adapted quickly. Too quickly, some elders said. You have changed, one council member observed during a private session. Yes, Scifi replied. So have our results. The elder studied her carefully. "Do you regret it?" Scifi thought of the quiet moments, of laughter she never knew she needed, of curiosity without fear. "No," she said. "I regret that we waited so long." The council did not punish her, they followed her lead. On Earth, children learned that humans had helped other species rediscover emotion. They did not cheer loudly or boast. It simply became another chapter in human history. Humans helping not by force, but by being themselves. Elias eventually received an offer to return home. He declined, not because he was trapped, not because he owed anyone, but because he chose to stay. He had become a bridge between logic and feeling, between worlds that forgot what it meant to care. Scifi and Elias never labeled what they shared. Humans liked names. Her species did not. What mattered was trust, respect, and a shared future. They worked together, learned together, changed together. One day, a distant alliance requested help. A civilization on the edge of collapse had eliminated emotion entirely generations ago. Their population was declining, creativity had vanished, reproduction was failing. They asked for human guidance, not technology, guidance. A human team was assembled. Scifi joined them. When they arrived, the world felt quiet in the wrong way. Cities functioned perfectly, but no one smiled. No one rested. Life continued, but meaning was gone. The humans did not lecture, they lived. They played music in public spaces, shared meals, told stories without purpose. They introduced joy without explanation. At first, the locals resisted. Then someone laughed. It was small, quiet, but it spread. Scifi observed the data with awe. Emotional resurgence restored biological stability faster than any medical treatment. She recorded everything. "Emotion," she said in her report, "is not a primitive stage, it is a foundation." The alliance recovered, others followed. Humanity became known for something no one expected, not strength, not weapons, not dominance, but healing. Back on the station, Scifi stood alone in her research space, reviewing the first log she had ever hidden from the council. The one where she admitted she felt something meaningful. She smiled softly. That word no longer frightened her. Elias joined her, carrying 2 warm cups, a human habit she had learned to enjoy. "Thinking again?" he asked. "Always," she replied. They watched the stars in silence, comfortable and unafraid. Somewhere far away, a new species discovered joy for the first time. And somewhere closer, a human and an alien proved that the universe did not grow stronger by removing what made life feel good. It grew stronger by remembering it. The experiment was long over. The connection remained. And humanity, once underestimated, quietly reshaped the galaxy simply by being human. Time changed the station more than any redesign ever could. What was once a place of cold efficiency slowly became something warmer. Not chaotic, not uncontrolled, just alive. People from many species passed through its halls now. Some stayed for research. Some stayed to learn. Some stayed because, for the first time in their long histories, they felt comfortable being somewhere without knowing exactly why. Scifi noticed these changes in small ways. Conversations lasted longer. Meetings ended with shared silence instead of abrupt dismissal. Even the lighting systems had been adjusted, softer now, responding not only to energy use but to emotional comfort. Her people had not collapsed because of emotion. They had grown. That fact still amazed her. Elias had become a familiar presence across the station. Not a leader, not a symbol, just a human who listened. Other species sought him out when they struggled to understand what they were feeling. He never gave orders. He never claimed authority. He simply asked questions and let others arrive at their own answers. Humans were good at that. One quiet cycle, Scifi received a message marked high priority. It came from a distant coalition of advanced species, older than most civilizations in known space. They had watched everything unfold. Humanity's influence, the emotional shift across interstellar society. They were concerned, not angry, concerned. A meeting was requested. Scifi and Elias traveled together aboard a small diplomatic vessel. The journey was long, giving Scifi time to think. Once, such uncertainty would have unsettled her deeply. Now she felt calm curiosity. When they arrived, the coalition chamber was vast and ancient. The beings present were distant and strange, their forms shaped by stars humans had never seen directly. "We observe imbalance," one of them said. "Emotion spreads faster than logic." Elias nodded. "It usually does." "That is dangerous," the being replied. "Only if you fight it," Elias said gently. Scifi spoke next, surprising even herself. Emotion does not replace logic, it supports it. Without emotion, logic has no direction. The coalition considered this in silence. You humans, another voice said, risk instability by encouraging feeling. Elias met their gaze. We risk instability by ignoring it. The discussion lasted many hours. No threats were made, no demands issued. In the end, the coalition did not forbid humanity's influence. They asked to observe more closely. That alone was a victory. When they returned, Scifi felt something she had learned to recognize: pride, not in dominance, not in success, but in contribution. Back on the station, new generations of her species began training differently. Emotional awareness was no longer suppressed. It was taught carefully, responsibly, with guidance from humans and others who had lived with it for millennia. Children laughed more, mistakes were forgiven more easily. Progress did not slow, it accelerated. Elias eventually received another message from Earth. His family asked when he would come home. He recorded a response, calm and honest. He said he was helping others learn something important. He said he was happy. That mattered most. Scifi watched him send the message. "Do you miss your home?" she asked. "Yes," he replied, "but home isn't always one place." She nodded. She understood that now. Years passed. The word experiment faded from records. What remained was partnership. Humanity was no longer seen as strange for feeling deeply. They were respected for it. Other species still struggled. Emotion was not easy. Pain existed alongside joy. Loss came with connection. Humans never denied that. They simply accepted it as the cost of meaning. One day, Scifi stood before a new council session, this time as an advisor, not a subject. She spoke clearly, confidently. "We once believed perfection meant control," she said. "But perfection without purpose is emptiness. Humanity showed us that feeling gives purpose." The council agreed. Later, alone by the viewport, Scifi reflected on how far she had come, from scientist to teacher, from observer to participant, from distance to connection. Elias joined her quietly. "The stars haven't changed," he said. "No," she replied, "but we have." They stood together, watching light from distant worlds reach them after traveling for centuries. So much time, so much patience. Humanity understood that better than anyone. They had always known that survival was not just about lasting. It was about caring enough to continue. The galaxy would never be the same again, not because humans conquered it, but because they reminded it how to feel.